Hey, it's Soul, and this is the guide to Alchemy in Midnight. Here we're going to cover the feel of leveling up and specialization paths. Then we'll cover cooldown and mastery crafting along with a few builds, then highlight some cool things Alchemy has to offer. This is an intermediate guide that assumes you've got some experience with professions over the past few years. Use the navigation to get you where you want to go. Please like this video, subscribe for more WoW coverage, and catch me where I'm live. A few things to point out. You can skip this part if you heard it before, because I'm going to repeat it for just about every profession. Consumable goods and reagents, which is Alchemy's bread and butter, now only have 2 quality ranks. This matters a bit for gear crafters, but when it comes to consumables and reagents, it's a pretty big deal. That creates a distinction between what I'm going to call a cooldown crafter versus a master crafter of these items. And I need to explain these terms too. A cooldown crafter doesn't rely on high-level materials, tools, levels, or knowledge points beyond what's needed to learn recipes. Instead, they focus on using the concentration stat to raise the quality of an item to the next highest rank. And in Midnight, with only 2 ranks, max quality is just 1 step away. Virtually all professions can apply this philosophy to create crafting characters who basically use concentration to make max quality consumables and reagents when enough is available, thus using concentration as kind of a daily cooldown mechanic. A player with this philosophy sees their characters more or less as tools, a means to an end, and so on, and will primarily do their business in the auction house. I'm speculating here, but I anticipate cooldown crafters to be pretty popular, as they don't even need high quality materials to make top quality goods. There might be a drawback though, as this could actually impact the supply of some materials, which might narrow the price differences between qualities. We should also consider the mid to long term of this kind of approach. What will the competition be like between single-player characters and those who might roll numerous alts slamming these cooldowns? How many players will be using so many alts for this? And how will all this mix in with the region auction house? We'll just have to wait and see. On the other end, master crafters depend on building up levels and knowledge points to eventually mass-produce high-quality items and gear, which involves all the weekly grinding and activities involved. This also falls under the philosophy of being a completionist who has fully developed their character. This isn't about right or wrong gameplay. You can play however you like, but this guide will make distinctions, so you can come up with your own strategy. All the familiar trappings have returned, from specializations to knowledge points, patron orders, and concentration. A number of recipes are purchased with Artisan's Moxie. It's earned from skill ups, gaining knowledge, and fulfilling patron orders. Some recipes are discovered or dropped, and you can mouse over the info box on a recipe to find out how to get it. Moxie, by the way, replaces Artisan's Acuity from the War Within. Moxie is also specific to a given profession, so unlike Dragonflight and the War Within, you won't be able to jump multiple professions to consolidate a whole bunch of Moxie and dump it all into a single profession. Leveling Alchemy has changed a bit in Midnight. It's almost entirely moved away from the RNG experimentation mechanic, and it's moved to a mix of basic leveling and making yourself eligible to train for new recipes. As mentioned, a number of recipes are purchased using Artisan's Moxie and Void Light Marl. It's the equivalent to resonance crystals in the War Within. This means for those of you looking to complete your recipe collection, you'll be out and about in the world, or at least one of your characters will, because they can just trade it to the crafter. Other recipes are earned from this new thing called Cambrian's Cauldron. It's basically a cauldron next to the trainer. They provide training too, but first you need to fulfill some requirements, like making a certain number of potions or flasks, and then you can access the training, which is purchased with alchemy materials. While there will no doubt be some frustration over learning recipes via currency and grinding, being able to choose what you can craft without having to dump tons of gold and resources early on, that's going to be a nice change. Unfortunately, due to beta limitations, I was only able to level to 60, but this was with only the healing potion recipe. I'm sure a high-end potion like Light's Potential will take you all the way to 100, but I'm sure there are cheaper ways to go about it. Sites like wowprofessions.com will provide some fantastic walkthroughs that maximize material use. Let's go over the specializations. Midnight moves away from mastering the ingredients that go into alchemy like in the War Within, and to the items themselves. That means potion and flask mastery once again have separate spec trees to go down like during Dragonflight. Within each tree is a certain discipline. Under potion prowess, it's light versus void, each featuring a selection of potions to focus on. Under light, light's potential is a likely choice to make you want to go for this spec, but under void, it features the potion of recklessness, which provides a big buff to a secondary stat. Without knowing current tuning, there may be specs who value a secondary over a primary stat. The other 2 subspecs focus on ingenuity or multicrafting. I'll typically vote multicraft. The flask tree features a similar vibe. This time it's Sindori versus Heronir Specializations. Your choices here might be easier though. Sindori covers throughput flasks, while Heronir covers profession files. Should be an easy choice one way or another. Alchemical Mastery focuses on the secondary stats to enhance crafting, but its base trait also provides a skill bonus to all crafts that you don't want to miss maxing out if you're going for master crafting. Those three specs are fairly straightforward, but transmutation is where another big set of changes happen. Thaumaturgy is basically gone in Midnight, and it now covers two main areas. Transmutation allows for the usual bundling of items to make something else, and includes transmuting 10 of these elemental modes, which are used in many recipes, into 8 of a different mode. The transmutes follow a fixed path, however, where you take void elements and you would transmute them into primal energy, then primal energy to light, light to wild magic, and then wild magic to void again. It's designed in a way to regulate prices in case one mode ends up much more plentiful and thus cheaper than the other, but let's pretend that void happens to be the least profitable, while wild magic is the most profitable. Kinda sucks. It's going to be pretty rough trying to transmute again and again, hoping to flip void all the way into wild magic and make a profit. The best case scenario is if, for example, light was the cheapest and the flip to wild magic would be greater. But this would also be pretty easy for folks with eyeballs to get on top of. Now there is one transmute with a cooldown, and that's Wondrous Synergist. This is required for making cauldrons and alchemy decor, so it'll always have at least some demand, even after Midnight is done and over with. When it comes to stats and tools, because alchemy is primarily a consumables profession, multicraft is pretty much king. Cooldown crafters might be able to settle for just uncommon tools the whole way through the expansion, but this is going to mean for master crafters, obtaining the epic versions of their tools is very important to maximize their throughput. Rare quality tools work just fine for the sake of meeting skill level requirements, but when the time comes, folks are going to need to participate in abundance. It's a world event that's basically them running around collecting stuff. The event leads to obtaining the materials needed for crafting the best profession tools. It's not what I consider difficult content either, it's just a big old loot romp through an enclosed area. No guarantees, but I'll try to have a proper guide through abundance before launch. With professions at their current beta state, and because of the nature of alchemy, cooldown crafters are looking pretty strong in most areas, as they have fairly easy access to most recipes. But these kinds of players will need numerous alts to achieve any decent production though, and it takes 4 days to refill the concentration stat. Safer crafts would include the healing and mana potions, as well as throughput potions. Early on though, the pricing is likely to be hugely volatile because of the accessibility and possible competition. You're safe if you happen to also pick your own materials, but if you're trying to buy in bulk and throw an army of alts at this at the early stage, the risk is going to be very high. Master crafters are more or less playing the long game with few to no alts, and their best focus is, as usual, multi-crafting at full skill level. It remains to be seen how they'll do competing with cooldown crafters though, whether they're doing flasks or potions or Wondrous Synergy. But there might be a little something with transmuting modes. Specking for it takes more time than others, and only one is needed unless they're also going for Wondrous Synergy. Having a transmuter may be invaluable for a gatherer to convert their unwanted modes into something better. The solo transmuter is probably going to scavenge the auction house looking for modes on the cheap. Fortunately, the investment into being a skilled transmuter isn't super high either, but there is some dedication involved. And now for the cool items. Of course, the Philosopher's Stone returns. There's a basic one, and a more powerful endgame version of the trinket. And there's a good spread of alchemy decor, some with fun, semi-natural designs and otherwise cool lighting and particle effects. Recipes for these come from a variety of sources, including purchases with Moxie and drops from Delves. Mousing over the info button will provide more information. And that's the guide. Please like this video, subscribe for more profession and other WoW coverage, catch me live, and I'll catch you later. Stay safe, stay healthy, and stay breezy.